Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to another episode here on the G's Footage Garage. Today we're going to go ahead and install an ATI 10% underdrive pulley on the 2022 Camaro LT1. So what we have here is an ATI Super Dampener 10% underdrive pulley. We have an ARP bolt part number 2342503 and a serpentine belt part number K060560. That's what we're going to use, guys. Okay guys, and the idea behind this is less rotational mass for the crank to free up some horsepower. The claims out there are like 10 horsepower and 1/10 of a second. That's what people claim, but we're gonna put it to the test because you know we test all our mods at Irwindale Drag Strip. But with that being said, guys, let's get busy and let's start taking this bad boy apart. We're gonna start by disconnecting the master flow sensor and this little evap port. Now we disconnect the tube. Right here, we absorb our harmonic balancer in its natural habitat. So we're gonna have to loosen up the belt. Just make sure we remember the orientation. Goes from the harmonic balancer, over the water pump, under the alternator, and over the pulley, back around, and our AC is on this side, driver's side. Okay, this is actually gonna be the hard one. So take off the belt. Okay guys, so we're gonna go ahead and grab a 15mm socket and a ratchet with the long handle to give us some leverage, and we're simply gonna push down. Okay, slide this guy out. There it is. Oop, it came back up with some power. All right, now we can simply remove the belt. This one's a little tricky, guys. There is no tensioner on this one, so it's hard to take off and it's hard to put on. Actually, taking it off is easy because you could just loosen up the crank, loosen up the harmonic balancer, and that's gonna come off. Putting it on is gonna be tricky. All right, what do we have down here? We have a big bolt. Okay, so check it out. We pulled off the belt, and there's our harmonic balancer. We have a socket that fits in here. However, we have no space to put an impact. And I'll tell you what, guys, we need an impact for this. That bolt is under good, so we need an impact. So what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna go ahead and take off the electric fan shroud, and hopefully we have enough space to get an impact in there. We're gonna go ahead and start by disconnecting the electric fans here. How do we do this? I think we just push in here and pull this out. There it goes, just like that. And there's a little tab here. Okay, and some simple wire cutters will do the trick here. There it goes. Ta-da! And I'm not using these to cut. I'm using these to get in there and pop it up. Over here, obviously. Get in there and pop it up. We do the same thing on this part here. Go in here. Fish in our wire cutters, pop it out. Okay, so actually there's more, guys. All along here we're gonna see 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's 1, that's 2, okay, and that's 3. Once all these clips are removed, we come over here and we have a 10mm bolt here and a 10mm bolt back here. One. Okay, we take that guy out too. So this transmission line here has a little clip there, and that's going to prevent it from lifting up also. Okay guys, so I unclipped the little clip that's holding the transmission line. However, I still can't get it out. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the transmission line. A little clip holds it in place. Oh, didn't work. Okay guys, so I took off the plastic clips that hold this to the shroud. I unplugged it here. I disconnected the transmission line. I disconnected the radiator hose, and there was like a little harness clip over there. So that little guy right here, this one here, there it is right there. So I don't know what's holding it. I'm thinking there has to be screws. I don't remember, to be honest. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and lift up the car. I just did that right now. Ta-da! And I'm gonna remove the skid plate cover, and I'm gonna see what's holding it. I have a feeling there's 3 bolts down there. So let's take off the skid plate cover. Alright guys, and this thing's held in place by a series of 10mm bolts in the middle, a plastic clip that goes here, and a bunch of 7mm that go alongside the edges. Quite a bit of screws. As I suspected, you have 1, 2, and 3. All right, now it comes up. All right, come back over here, guys. Okay guys, now we should be able to pull up the electric fan shroud. So you have 1, 2, and 3 7mm bolts on the bottom, and you have 1 and 2 10mm bolts, and yeah, that's basically it, aside from the little plastic clips. So let's see where we're at now, guys. Let's try to get an impact in there. Oh man, that's tight. That's too tight. Okay guys, so I don't think our Milwaukee is gonna work for this. We're gonna have to resort to air, just because there's not enough space. So I'm gonna go get the air compressor. Alright guys, sometimes you have to resort to a little bit of violence. Fire. Alright guys, I am a trained professional. Do not try this at home. To control the flame a little bit better. There it goes. Alright, we're going to put some heat on this bolt, see if we can get it to loosen up a little bit. Alright guys, well there it is, the bolt's off. Took a little bit of heating up to do. My air impact couldn't really do it, so I helped it out by adding some heat to the bolt, and well, it's off now. I wish I could have used my big Milwaukee, but I couldn't get it in there. So that's the hack right there. You use a old school little air impact because they're small. And if you guys wondering why I have all these candles, it's because these damn mosquitoes, guys, they're vicious right now. Crazy. And I got the Picasso over here. What's up, Picasso? Doing a fantastic job, buddy. Okay guys, so after we went ahead and removed the electric fans, our serpentine belt, and the harmonic balancer bolt, it's time to pull that harmonic balancer off, and you're gonna need a special tool for that. What I have here is a OMT harmonic balancer puller. This one is about 30 bucks on Amazon and looks something like this. So I'll show you guys how to use it. Basically, this guy goes in here, and you pick a rod. I'm guessing it's going to be this guy. and this guy is going to go into the crank, and the other end is going to go in here, and it's going to look something like this. So just to explain how this pulley remover tool works, these little legs right here grab onto these little tabs on the pulley, right? So you're gonna have something that looks like this, just like that. Put your tool in here like this, it grabs onto these tabs right there. Alright guys, so what I like to do here is I like to get a little bit of grease. In this particular case I'm just using ARP grease just because I had it at hand, and I'll do the same thing for both ends just to minimize the amount of friction that the tool is going to have and prolong the life of the tool and minimize wear on our components. So once we have that, we're going to go ahead and snake this into the crank. There you go. We grab our pulley puller tool and make sure all your little legs are inward. Fish the little rod through the hole and start adjusting your legs to grab onto the pulley. Alright, and then once you have your legs in the tabs, go ahead and get your screw. Okay. Okay. Perfect. And you want to make sure that this thing is straight back. If you get it in an angle, you don't got your legs in right, it's going to be pitching to one side or the other. This has to be nice and straight. Alright, so now we go ahead and grab a wrench, hold the base, and we're going to start turning this guy. And what this will do, it'll start pulling the crank out as we screw in. Alright guys, and here's our stock Carmatic balancer, and it's going to be a little larger than our ATI. Here's our ATI. Definitely significant difference in size, hence why it's called 10% underdrive. You guys, we'll stand this guy up here and we'll put this guy right next to it, and I hope you guys can see the difference. Do it like this. See that? See this groove here? Significantly smaller than that groove, right? This one will remain the same because this is our crank belt and this one here is our AC belt. So the AC belt remains the same. However, this one here is the one that gets significantly smaller for a 10% underdrive. So yeah, and also guys, the weight difference is crazy. This thing doesn't weigh very much. However, this one is significantly heavier. So there you guys have it. Less rotational mass, less weight, and the smaller diameter is going to make it easier on the crank to spin, freeing up some horsepower and hopefully equating to a faster time at the track. But with that being said guys, let's go ahead and put it together. Oh wait, one thing I need to mention guys, I bought this used, so this was already torqued properly. I went ahead and grabbed my torque wrench and I checked it, and all these bolts are torqued. However, if this is purchased new, you will want to follow the installation instructions, which calls for torque T40 bolts to 16 foot-pounds, torque T45 cap bolts to 28 foot-pounds. So this thing does have to be assembled. But like I said guys, mine was already assembled previously. It calls for a torque spec and it calls for Loctite. So make sure you don't skip that step. Alright guys, what we will do is we will make sure that this is clean. Alright, because like I said, mine is used. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up, make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, just like that. And this one is already torqued, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. Alright guys, so it's time to install this pulley. There's a little keyway on here. You guys see there? there's a little keyway. You're gonna align that keyway with the crank. The crank has one also. So if you look at the crank on the bottom here, it has the same little tooth. Let's see if I can, there it is. The crank has a little tooth on the bottom. So we're gonna make sure that lines up. All right guys, however, you will need a specialty tool to get the harmonic balancer installed. I have an OG one. This is homemade. I got it from some guy off of ls1tech.com many years ago, but they sell actually harmonic balancer installation tools. This is just a homemade one. So all right guys, and before I put it on, I'm gonna grab a little bit of engine oil, just a tad bit. I don't know if it's recommended or not. I just want it to go in easy. It's not gonna hurt it. And we match our keyway with the keyway on the crank. For us here in this instance, it's the keyway's at the bottom. Put that in there. Come on, there it is. Okay, cool. All right, this might be a little difficult to do. I may want to do this afterwards, but let's see. It might play ball. I don't know. Nah, I'll do it after. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I could do it afterwards. Okay, we'll do this build after. All right, we grab our harmonic balancer installation tool, and basically you screw this into the crank. Okay. As far as you can get it in. The more bite, the better. That's pretty good. I don't remember what size this is. Oh, I guess I do. Tie the outer nut first, just to get the most amount of bite as we possibly can. There's still more bite left. And the reason you want to get the most bite as possible, there's a lot of pressure is going to be generated right now, and you don't want to rip the threads off. So you want to make sure that you have the more threads to grab onto, so they don't rip off. It sounds scarier than what it is, guys. It sounds scarier than what it is. All right. So once this guy bottoms out, that's pretty good. Then we go ahead and start getting the pulley in. And as we're doing this little movement here, this bolt is grabbed onto the crank, and this sleeve is pushing the pulley in. Then you want to make sure that your belts are aligned. That looks pretty good to me, because if they're not, you're gonna throw belts, you're gonna eat up the belts, and just all bad. So make sure you're bottomed out. Let me see here. Okay. All right, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay, have the AC belt and back of the harmonic balancer back here. Got it over the AC belt, and well, the only thing left to do now is try to get it to get some bite and have it work itself in. So that's like the worst part of this whole install, the AC belt. But I know you make more power without it, or the claims are that you make more power without it, but oh man guys, I gotta have my AC. It is what it is, guys. I'm not a hardcore grudge racer, so I'm keeping the AC. Now we go ahead and install the smaller belt. ARP bolt 234-2503, and I already went and lubricated the threads. the bottom of the head and the washer that goes towards the crank, just like that. Now guys, I know that like on the internet you read a lot that you should put a little bit of thread sealant on the bottom of the bolt. I'm not gonna do that because I don't know, guys. I think it's gonna mess with the torque specs. I'd rather just use the supplied lubricant that comes with the ARP bolt. And the way this washer is like chamfered in the end, and I wish I would have showed you guys. Let me see if I still can. You see how it's like beveled, or I don't know if I should say beveled, but it's cut like in a little angle, and then so is the bolt. So I don't think it's gonna leak. Some people claim it does, some people claim it doesn't. I've never done it and I don't have an issue, so I'm gonna try it on this one and hopefully I don't have an issue. But some people do put like silicone on the base, but like I said, I don't want to mess with torque specs, throw it off. I'm just gonna follow the instructions per ARP. Okay, so the bolt needs to be torqued at 235 foot-pounds. Yeah, 235 foot-pounds using ARP Ultra Torque Fastener Lubricant. All right, guys, that's going to be pretty hard for me to do by myself. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the starter and lock the flywheel so I can get a torque wrench on there and torque it. I know on the internet you guys are going to read a lot that a lot of people just torque it with an impact with a whole bunch of red thread locker. I guess it works, guys. A lot of people do it, but I just want to do it right. So I'm gonna go ahead and jack up the car, go under it, lock the flywheel. I have a tool for it. All right, guys, so this tool here basically goes in place of your starter, and it locks your flywheel in place so you can torque it as much as you need to. And well, it's a little bit of extra work, but it's gonna have to do, guys. What I will do now though is disconnect the battery, because I will be messing with electrical stuff, and I don't want the starter to touch anything and then cause a short. So I'm gonna unplug the battery, jack up the car, put this thing on there. All right, guys, well, I was starting to take off the starter when my dad showed up. I'm just gonna go down there and hold the flywheel with the screwdriver as the person on top torques it to 235. What do you want to do? If you want to torque 235, you want to hold the flywheel?
I'll hold the flywheel.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, shut it off.
Okay, you got bite?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, we're in the money. Something else, and I made him help me hold the flywheel. So that prevented me from having to remove the starter. And it looks pretty tight down there, guys. I'll show you guys. So my car is pretty much stock, as you guys can see. So I still have my stock exhaust manifolds and cats, and that's where the starter's at, guys. And I started removing it when my dad showed up. So basically the only thing we did is we basically moved this thing to the side, and then we grabbed the screwdriver and wedged it in between the bolt there, and that's how we pulled it off. So we're torqued now, so I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble everything down here and get the show on the road. All right, guys, now that our AC belt is on, our serpentine belt is on, our bolt is torqued, I reinstalled the starter back there, so we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the electric fans in, just because the car's already in the air right now, and remember we have those 3 bolts that secure it in the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, guys, so the fan is in. I ended up loosening up this bolt here to give me some play with the AC line, and I also disconnected the transmission line, and I was able to get the electric fans in and out. It is real tight. You got to be real careful, especially with not cutting the hoses, but I tried my best, and well, I think we're fine. Yeah, we're okay. So you have to make sure that you are sliding in these tabs here, and yeah, there's tabs on both sides. So whew, that's a mission, guys. Resecure this guy, a little snug. Reinstall this guy, make sure it's in, Reinstall the clip. So if this cap doesn't go in, the clip is not seated. There it goes. We're good. There's this little guy here. Make sure line goes in there. Cap that. Alright guys, well this install is done. The only thing left to do now is go ahead and start it, and well, let's hope no AC belts or harmonic balancer belts come flying out. Start it up. Battery's disconnected. Gotta do that first. Alright guys, now we fire it up. Alright, so typical shenanigans once you disconnect the battery for a long period of time. But it hasn't thrown the belt. Well, at least I don't think. Let's go see. Alright guys, well it hasn't thrown the belts and doesn't have no crazy wobbles or anything like that. So only thing left to do now is test drive it. Go for a ride. Alright guys, so we're going for a little test drive and driving normal as usual, just to make sure everything's good. And we'll give it a little test hit right now in a bit. It doesn't feel any faster than it did before. I didn't really gun it, I just kind of rolled into it a little bit. I'll give it a good pass right now. Feels pretty good. Nothing too drastic, just feels good. All right guys, well this video is going to come to an end. Car feels good, very responsive. Feels like it revs up a little bit faster. Usually when I would hit it on these tires, it usually grips and goes. Right now I kind of just hit it and tends to burn out a lot more. That could be something, an indicator of more power. But yeah, I don't know guys, it doesn't feel like like extreme power out of this world or anything like that. Like, it doesn't feel like the mod did very much. In theory, this mod should be doing a lot more than all our other mods we've done. So we'll have to go to Irwindale and we'll have to test it out and see if it made our car go any faster. But with that being said, guys, I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for always hanging out with me in the garage. It's always a pleasure. Later, guys.